You see my screen? Give me a raise the roof. Raise your hands. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so I am going to actually, let's start at our Bywater website page. Has anyone seen our new website page, which is so fabulous? Oh, maybe Andrew's back. We have, oh, there he is. Maybe don't turn on your camera, Andrew.
That was exciting. Good timing.
I just started, so it's all yours. I didn't do anything.
Sorry about that, folks. Of course, I've got a webinar scheduled with 40 people. That would be right when the internet decides to die on me. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that's our website. It's really cool. It works better than my internet connection. So yeah, I've utterly lost my train of thought. So we're going to do an overview today of the 1805 upgrade across the board. More webinars to follow, getting into more detail. Kelly was on our website. Here's our website. On the site let me put this in the chat here. And of course, all my various Zoom windows closed on me. The QA and the chat. So I put in chat there a link to the upgrade webinar schedule that will give you times and dates for all of the upcoming webinars to get into more detail on the various modules. We're going to do all of those twice, so hopefully one of those you'll be able to make it to. We will also be recording those as we are recording this one now. Thank you to whoever clicked record while my internet was dead. And those recordings will go up on the website here once they are ready to go. Also on our site, we have the 1805 upgrade notes. I'll put that link in the chat as well. So the upgrade notes are going to include all the stuff we talk about today, also links to the full notes, the 1805 manual, all that fun stuff. I'm sorry, this is where the recording webinar sessions will be. And all the various bug fixes, links to Bugzilla, all that fun stuff. And Kelly was just beginning, it sounded like, to kind of give a general overview of our new website since we're here and it's new and it's exciting. So yeah, here's our new website. Let me jump back to just the home page. So some stuff has moved around. All the same content that was on our site previously is still there, but it's kind of rejiggered itself a little bit. I'm going to point at education because obviously that's my bias. In the education site, or the education part of our site, I should say, you'll see all the blog posts and things that you're used to. We have categories over here to kind of help you navigate those a little bit. So Koha how-to will be the blog posts that explain how to do this or that. So let's see. Right now, top of that list, we've got adding the ability to configure catalog details and acquisitions in 1805. It's a long title, which actually we'll talk about that a little bit later here. But yeah, our videos are there, Koha upgrade notes. So yeah, most of that, the education-y stuff will be linked here. If we go back to education proper, just the main education page. And, oh, that's not what I want. I want the demo. Actually, I think that's under services. I apologize as I learn my way around our new website. Yeah, under services, you will find a link to the Koha demo. Our demo site has been upgraded to 1805. So if you want to play around with any of the stuff we talk about in this webinar or future webinars, you can do that there in advance of your upgrade. So moving on to upgrades, those are all going to start in November. as usual, you'll get a little note on your staff client page, nice little red box in the news, letting you know when that upgrade is coming up. It'll happen on a Sunday night, and then or Monday morning, you'll come in, clear your cache, and be ready to go. If you have specific questions about the upgrade, when it's going to happen, we could give you dates. But yeah, generally look for that note from Larry a couple weeks before. As we go along today, please do let me know if you have questions. Everybody's mics are turned off, but you can use the Q&A box, or you can use the Zoom chat. The Q&A box is probably a little bit preferable because that will make it so everybody can see your question. In chat, it's easy to accidentally send things just to me, and then I see your question and nobody else does, and that's not as helpful. So yeah, please feel free to jump in with questions as we go along. So I'm going to close these and head over to the OPAC to start. So 1805 is a big upgrade. It's got 12 new features, 257 enhancements, and 360 bug fixes. So it's a big pile of stuff. Not a lot on the OPAC, but let me start there and go through some things in the OPAC, and then we'll move over to the staff client. I'm going to start with a fun one. In the OPAC, let's grab any old book. 1805 has added the ability to use emojis when tagging books. This was an enhancement funded by the Hotchkiss School, one of our partners. So if we go down to Add Tags, we've got a new little button here. That's a little smiley face that opens up an emoji picker. We've all been joking about how this is going to be 100% poop emojis across the board, but your partners might be nicer than the imaginary partners we think about. I don't know. I worked in public libraries too long. I immediately go to terrible things people will do. But yeah, this book is hot like fire.
And not to rain on anyone's parade, but I think they took the poop emoji out.
Oh, see, now I have to look. It's an important question.
Look if it's there.
I don't want to remember what category it is. I'm too old to understand emoji categories. Oh, well. So like any other emoji, this will show up over on the staff client for approval. If we go to the tag cloud, I should say it'll show up for moderation if you have moderation turned on. There are brave libraries in the world who just let those tags go. But yeah, you can see emoji tags just mixed in with everything else. Looks like we've got a lot of smiley face tags. Let's see, what gets smiley for 10 days to a sharper memory? Yes. Some people really like sharper memory, I guess. It's not very exciting. Over in the staff client, if we go to Tools and Tags, nothing pending right now, but we've got 7 things already approved. Yeah, you just see the emojis mixed in there. So actually there was a bug that enabled emojis across the board, across Koha. This is just the only place right now that actually puts an emoji picker into Koha. I suppose if folks really want to start putting emojis in their MARC records, that feature could be added soon. Koha knows how to think in emojis now. This is just the only place where it's showing up. Vicky says her patrons are going to have some trouble with emoji. That's fine. We'll let the emoji proficient among us use emojis, and the rest of us can continue to be confused by them. And I'm going to jump back over to the OPAC here and move along to, in my account, for any of you who are using routing lists with your periodicals, your serials, there is a little bit more support for that in the OPAC now. If I go to, actually, see, I don't have any I'm not subscribed to any routing lists. Let me find a patron who is. They've added tab on the side here to let you see your routing lists.
I think you have to log in as somebody.
Well, I'm logging as me. I just don't have any.
Don't have any. I'll put one on your account.
Oh, thank you. So this tab doesn't allow patrons to edit their routing lists. It will just show them what they are subscribed to. So again, if you're using routing lists, it sends an automatic notification to a list of patrons for any new issue of a serial they're subscribed to. So it's sort of like a hold, just sort of a notification that there is a new issue. So this will give patrons a place where they can verify which periodicals they're getting those notifications on. I'll loop back around to that in a second after Kelly adds one for me. Thank you, Kelly. So continuing the theme of periodicals, we've had a little bit of change to how those subscription details show in the Opec. Let me grab a subscription here. I like how many emojis popped up when we showed this to people yesterday. Okay, so in subscriptions, previously this table here only showed issue, receive date, and status, well, and note. We've added a column for publication date. So this is actually going to be not the date you received this on, but rather the date you entered as publication date, which is probably a more useful number or more useful date for your patrons to actually tell them this is the January issue, this is the March issue, rather than just this is when it showed up at the library. Along with this change to this table, actually this table has been added to our friend, the Configure Columns menu. So back in the staff client, I know we looked at this some back in 1711. We're continuing to add more tables into the Configure Columns tool. So this is in Administration, way down here on the right side, Configure Columns. And under OPEC, we've got controls for what is shown in that. So I guess that's subscriptions table, subscription seats. So by default, it's showing all 5 of these columns. We can turn any of those on or off if we want to. So for instance, if we, I don't know, we don't want to show that received date, we can turn that off. Save those changes. Reload that page. And ta-da. I like the Configure Columns interface. This is a lot of changes that we used to have to make through jQuery are now easier to make with this Configure Columns interface, and more tables throughout Koha are getting pushed in there, so that's nice. Just getting more easy configuration. As you can see, the names aren't always the most sensible. Serial planned date is apparently what Koha calls the received column. But yeah, that's computers for you. Weird names. Okay, Kelly gave me a thumbs up that she has added something to my routing list. So let's see what she's subscribing to. So go back to my account and my routing lists. So we can see I'm subscribed to people. I'll get a notification every week when people comes out. Kelly's saying, yes, people is weekly. And this just gives me a link over to the record for people. So again, if I want to make changes to my routing list, I'm going to need to contact the library to add or remove titles there. A small change, but one I'm excited about personally. I'm going to, again, just grab any old book. Let's grab something off the book carousel here. So in the catalog details on the OPAC, we've got our social media links. In 1805, we have removed the link for delicious. Got tired of explaining to young people what delicious was. So yeah, we're updating those a little bit. I believe there's already a bug in there to add in Instagram and Pinterest. Could probably remove Google+. Maybe LinkedIn, I don't know. LinkedIn always seems funny to me. Yeah, so just trying to update these a little bit.
Andrew, we have a question.
Do you need serials enabled to see those columns in the OPAC? Yes. Yeah, there wouldn't be any data to put in those columns if you weren't using serials. So that's all my little OPAC stuff. Now let's talk about a slightly larger OPAC thing. There is now, to go along with the OPAC self-checkout tool, there is an OPAC self-check-in tool. And to get to there, I'm first going to jump over to the staff client and go to my system preferences, because there are some system preferences to the self-check-in. They look a lot like the system preferences for the self-checkout, if you've looked at those at all. So I'm going to go under circulation and all the way down at the bottom, self-check-in module. So first off, obviously there's a great big enable, disable, unenable. But yeah, we've got this turned on. And self-check-in module, you can see it gives you a little scrap of web address there. So if you have the self-check-in module turned on, back on your OPAC, you'll take the root of your OPAC address, add that on there, and it takes you to the self-check-in module. So just like the self-checkout, you do need to log into the self-check-in tool for it to work. I was already logged in as myself, and I'm a super librarian on this site, so that let me into self-check-in. So just like the self-checkout, you'd need to, if you have a public computer route that you want people to check stuff in at, some staff member is going to need to log into that at the beginning of the day. And there is, in fact, a permission to let that staff account be used for self-check-in. So let's find, I'll just go to me. And if we go to permissions, they've actually, as part of this change, they've moved self-checkout permission. It used to be in Circulate. It is now. We've got its own little category, self-check modules, with two separate permissions, one for self-check-in and one for self-checkout. So if you're using the self-checkout, you've probably already got like a self-checkout account set up to log into that. You could easily just make that same account also do the self-check-in. Right now, I'm obviously a super librarian, so I've got that already. So here in my self-check-in, it asks for an item, or sorry, scan the item or enter its barcode. I have a barcode of a checked out item. Let me just grab it here. Shows me it received that barcode, and I'm going to click check in to check it in. There we go. Oh, this one was not checked in. There was a problem. See library staff. What did I do to my book? Probably checked it in, not unthinkingly. Let's see. Now I'm curious. I don't know. It's probably because my account is full of fines. Probably mad at me. We did run into an issue with this yesterday in how it handles holds. We're going to be looking at that and talking to our developers. So I would say watch that upgrade notes page for some updates on that. So if you are letting your patrons place holds, yeah, I would say look for some more information from us on that before you turn on the self-check-in. We need to just kind of verify how it captures holds and how that's going to work. And that is all of my OPEC stuff for this upgrade. We've got some more OPEC things that Kelly will talk about in, I don't remember the date on that, a few days. But that's everything I'm going to cover right here. So I'm going to close that and I'll leave it open. Probably come back to it later. And go back over to the staff client. And I'm going to jump over to circulation. Circulation is one of a few parts of Koha that have gotten a bit of a makeover in 1805. So I hope you all enjoy shiny new buttons. Some things moved around, reorganized, and just kind of made to look nicer. One of the things in here that I want to look at is the holds to pull list, because we've got some nice new functionality there. So in holds to pull, my screen size isn't great for this. You can see that we now have some new buttons here, mark lost and notify patron. So there's a system preference to go along with this to turn on this feature to be able to, from the holds to pull list on item level holds only, be able to go ahead and right from here say, this book isn't here, I want to mark it lost and let the patron know that this item is lost. I'm sorry, just scrolling to find that, those system preferences. I'm going to open those up in a new tab. And lose my mouse, like you do. So can mark holds to pull as lost? It's like when the system preference names are very specific. Does this work the same for the holds queue? Unfortunately, no, it does not. Right now, it only works in the holds to pull list. My suspicion would be that this will get pushed also to the holds queue, but right now it's only holds to pull. This also adds, and let's see. Another system, I should just go to circ and get the full list of system preferences here. Also, update item when lost. Yeah, that's always hard to read. Update item when lost from hold list. This will, you'll define which lost status you want that button to use. So if you wanted to go to lost or missing, you can find that number there. And then the last part of this is it adds actually a new notification, a new notice. So when you mark that thing as lost, it's going to send a notice to the patron who was waiting on it that says, I'm sorry, we cannot fill your hold because the item is lost. So a few moving parts there. But yeah, nice new functionality. As I said, it only works on item level holds. So if you've got a bib level hold, the assumption then is one of the copies, one of the items is lost, maybe, but not all of them. So there's something still for them to still have. If we only have one item with a bib record and don't mark that one item when placing a hold, will it still count as item level? No, Koha still sees that as a bib level hold. I think I've seen a bug to force bib level holds to be item level if there's only one item. That would be a big thing. All right. Sorry, I made a terrible mistake and lost my place in my upgrade notes. I scrolled, never scroll. Oh no. All right. I'm gonna, while I'm in admin, we have a pretty sizable change here to how we define libraries. Boy, that sounds profound. Change to how we define libraries. No, we've added the ability to define hierarchical groups to your libraries. Oh, and I clicked the wrong thing. I clicked libraries rather than library groups. So you can now say, of my branches, these two or these three are a group. So we put the East branch and the Northeast branch together in the East group. This has a few ramifications. First off, if I go back over to the Opec, and actually the Opec, not the self-check-in. If I do an advanced search, I get the option to limit my search not just by specific libraries, but also by groups of libraries. So I can say only show things from my group. Also, we've got some staff permissions that go along with this to define what staff members can see. So I'm going to pull up Howard. So Howard, if we look at his permissions, he has the ability to add, modify, and view patron information, but not patron info from other libraries, from libraries that are not his. So Howard only works with the East branch. He's not going to be able to see or change patrons from other branches. I'm sorry, I should say from other groups. He gets that for the East group, which includes 2 libraries, but he doesn't get any libraries outside of that group. The hierarchical groups, do be aware they're not yet working quite as desired if you use independent branches. So that's on the horizon. If you don't use independent branches and you want to set up hierarchical groups, though, they will work fine, and we'd be happy to help you get those set up. So another patron thing, we now have the ability to merge patrons. So whether you've discovered that you accidentally made multiple cards for the same person, or I don't know, if you're moving from separate cards across a system to one unified card, for whatever reason it comes up, we can now grab multiple patrons and merge them all into one account. So let me just grab some patrons. Oh, I don't want to merge Kelly. That seems like a bad idea. Heather's excited about merging patrons. Yeah, it's good. It's a thing, a feature that definitely has some application. Hopefully not like every day, but oh, we only have one O. Just Finnick all by himself. Brendan has raised his hand. Brendan, if that was just a yay for merging patrons, that's great. If that was a question, you should put it in chat or the QA. There are probably better ways for me to do this than trying to browse by last name. All right, let's do a search. Oh, do we have multiple Smiths? Kelly says no. All right, Smith, Martin Smith and Martin Smith. Well, obviously, these are the same patron. How could they not be? So a couple things here that will keep you from accidentally really messing your patrons up. First off, be aware that if I say select all, I don't get that merge patron button. It will not let me accidentally merge all of the patrons in my search. Clear those. But if I click 2 or 3, I'm not sure that there is an upper limit. You just can't do all of them. I can click those and then say merge. So this is pretty similar to merging bib records if you've used that feature. It's going to ask me first, which of these do I want to keep? Who's my real patron? I'm going to go with Martin Smith, adult patron. That seems like probably the better choice of the two. And then merge. And it gives me a nice little summary of this is what was moved. 2 account lines, so that's fine information. Mark says last borrow, so 2 things that Martin, online borrower, had borrowed. So all this stuff gets moved over, and then I can view the final patron record. Be warned, there is not an undo. So, be careful. Don't merge things just for fun. If you don't want particular staff members to be able to merge patrons, this is tied into, I'm going to jump back to permissions. Under tools, I've got permission blindness. Okay, tools. The permission for patron lists. Much as I go cross-eyed staring at the permissions. We'll check exactly what that is called.
Add, edit, delete patron list. Halfway
down.
Keep going.
Oops. There we go. Control F for the win. Okay. So yeah, they need to have add, edit, delete patron lists turned on to be able to use that feature. I know we also when we did this webinar yesterday, we talked about hiding that button with JavaScript. We could absolutely do that. Again, if you just really are uneasy about the idea of your staff being able to do that, it's an easy thing to hide.
We also had a partner ask if they could find out what staff members had that permission as well.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to share that report on the Q&A so you can see what staff members have it.
Another patron change, actually, let me go back to Martin. So we've had a little change to how patron modifications are logged, but a really nice little change. So if I go to details for Martin, and Martin got himself a new library card. Sure, that. So previously, any change you made to a patron just got logged as patron was modified. 1805 has added some tracking for changes to card number and previous card number. So we can see here in the modification log, Martin's card number was 39135. It is now whatever I just typed in there. So very nice upgrade for tracking, just previous card numbers, a thing that, oh good, Leslie is excited. Yeah, absolutely. Previously, that information was just gone. Whatever their old card number was, now you can say definitively, yes, this was your card number before. Will that previous card number come up if found and scanned? I don't think so, but let's see. If I take that and I put it into checkout. Oh, I didn't think that would work. Now that, Kelly looks really dubious.
Well, because we're on a test site, so the indexer doesn't run as often, like every 15 minutes, and that might have to do with it.
That might have to do with it. What would definitely work, though, if somebody comes up with a card that is an old card that you want to know who it used to connect up to, you could always go to Tools, go straight to that log viewer, and within the patron log, search for that old card number. Now, be aware, obviously, this is only going to be good going forward. Like, it's only logging that information from the moment you go to 1805 on. So if somebody lost their card 2 years ago, and now they find their old card, that number is still pretty gone. But going forward, you will be able to find those in the system logs. I'm going to try to remember to check back on that, though, because if old cards still work, that's actually pretty exciting. Now, let me jump back to Martin. We have a little change to, again, just giving you more information. In restrictions, uh-oh, Martin got in trouble. Was bad. He's been restricted for 1 week. So manual patron restrictions will now give you a created date. So it's like not flashy, but nice. I'm always in favor of anything showing you a little bit more information, giving you another date. So previously you would only see the expiration, now you also get creation. My next patron-related thing is over in the wonderful world of fines. We've added when you are paying a fine or creating a manual invoice, either way. Koha now allows you to define custom payment types. So we had a short list of these previously. There is now an authorized value you can go into to create whatever payment types you want. So we've got food drive as a custom payment type on here. If I go in administration, authorized values, and payment type, ooh, there we go. So whatever you want in there for your reporting, you can add in there now, whatever coding you need for reports you make to the city or your board. Got a lot more flexibility there. Robin has asked if this is something available for write-off types too, and not yet. But yeah, watch for that to progress its way over to write-offs in the future. Speaking of write-offs, I'm actually going to go to a different patron to show you this. I think we've got some examples on our old friend Gary. I spelled Gary's name right. Why did I think Gary had 2 R's in his name? Probably because he does.
Yeah, Gary does have 2 R's.
Why? Gary spells his name weird. Here we go. So Gary also owes the library money But, oh, don't tell anybody I'm about to write off an accruing fine, which is never a good idea. But I'm going to do it. We've got a new feature when doing write-offs. We can now write off partial fines, or I should say do partial write-offs. I'm going to cut Gary a break and only charge him sorry, Gary. I'm only going to charge him $5.95. I guess, no, I'm saying that wrong. I'm writing off $5.95, reducing his fine to just $5. So previously, it would give you that amount to confirm, but you weren't able to edit it. You can now write off just partial. Heather says she wants to add payment types, treasure, booty, and seized ships. Heather has an exciting library full of pirates. So eating wisdom, I've written off about half of it. He's now down to $5 in accruing fines. If I go over to his account and see write-off of $5.95. Another nice new feature in here is the ability to void payments. So if, let's say, Gary pays off the rest of his fine on eating wisdom, and I say, yep, he paid his $5. It was a food drive payment or a treasure or booty or seized ship payment. Got a new button over in the Accounts tab to void that payment. If I entered it wrong or, I don't know, it didn't go through and now I need to take it out of Koha, I can void it and it goes away. So previously there was an option to reverse. Void is clearing it out even further. And then, while I'm here on the Accounts tab, another new button. You may have noticed we've got Details down the list here on Accounts. So Details actually gives the information that is stored in the Account Offsets table. Remember, we talked about account offsets back in the 1711 upgrades. It was a new table that records specific information about every payment or change to a fine. The Details button here gives you the ability to see that information right here without actually running a report for it. So let me click Details on this write-off. So it shows me from here that the write-off was $5.95. It connects up to this specific fine. So again, just giving you a little bit more of a paper trail there, a little bit more easily accessible than it was previously. Now for my next patron thing, I need somebody who's got some stuff checked out. I don't know that Gary does. Oh, he does, good. If I show checkouts, I've got a nice little thing here, number of checkouts by item type. If you want a summary, Gary has 3 audio and 2 book. So save you some scrolling through lists and counting up lines. Again, just a nice bit of information there. All right, so that's all my patron stuff. I'm going to go back to circulation for another holds thing. And in holds awaiting pickup, what have we got? This is a real quick one, but this column used to be labeled available cents. It is now waiting cents. A little bit more clear. Probably could have breezed over that one. Nice quick rename. All right, I'm going to get into some more crunchy stuff here in the acquisitions module. Okay, so this change, so I'm going to click around a little bit to get to it. Find a basket. And I'm going to add to this basket in Amazon from an empty record. So the change here is we can now define what we want to include here. Holds waiting over 7 days. Actually, Leslie, that holds waiting over 7 days, that's an existing thing that's been around a while. There is a system preference that ties into it where you define how many days you let something wait on the hold shelf before the hold expires, and then that populates that tab based on the value you give it. So this site is set to let things wait for 7 days. If you set it for 5, you'd have a tab that says holds over 5 days. Okay, so in acquisitions, adding to a basket from a blank record, it's letting us define which fields we want to show up here. Previously, there was a set of default fields. I'm not going to remember what they all were, but now you can make this whichever fields you want. To set this up, you need to create an acquisitions framework, and then whatever fields you include in that acquisitions framework are what will appear here. So let me go to admin and frameworks. What is that patrons button? Which patron? Oh, here. To notify on receiving. Yeah. So that would be like a purchase suggestion. This would just tie a patron into this item. Yeah, Lisa, this is being recorded and it will be up on that upgrade webinar site. So yeah, if we loop a patron in there with this to notify on receiving, the patron will get a notification once the item is received. All right, acquisitions framework. Yeah, after we edit at the beginning part. We won't make you watch the part where my internet dies. So by default, Koha does not include an acquisitions framework, but you can create one. And then if we look at mark structure, the fields you include here are the fields that will show up in your catalog details when creating, when adding to a basket in acquisitions. Now we do have over on the Koha wiki a page for mark frameworks, and there is a sample or an acquisitions framework there you can download and import if you want to start using this. All right. Going back over to my framework, you'll notice if you've spent much time with frameworks before, we've got a couple new columns here, indicator 1 and indicator 2. This is a new feature, the ability to, in a framework, define default indicators for any given field. I am not a cataloger. I don't know what one uses indicators for. I have tried to read on the Library of Congress site what they do, and every time I try, it doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, Joy's in the audience, and she's shocked that I don't understand indicators. I know they're important. See, Heather's excited. I'm just not. I'm a public services librarian. I just pretend to know about cataloging. But yes, all the catalogers among you can Use these to your heart's content, and then report back. Come back and tell me what was exciting and useful about default indicators, because indicators confuse me. I'm glad you're excited. I'm happy for you. I'm going to jump next to serials and some changes there. Pare down my tabs before I get really lost. And let's find a subscription. With people, since I love people. So I want to point to, we can now batch edit subscriptions. Oops, clicked the wrong thing, sorry. Oh, let's see. Sorry, new features, I've forgotten how to get to it. Oop, I have lost the thing I want to click. Kelly, help me.
Yeah. Go back. Your batch editing.
Mm-hmm.
If you just make a search of, say, your magazine that you're searching for, so just go back to your serials module.
Mm-hmm.
And now click,
Mm-hmm.
click a couple of those, like maybe all but Bon Appetit. Yep, and now you'll see edit selected serials up there. If you click more than one, though, because it's a batch.
Right, right. Aha, okay. So I was thinking of this all wrong. So this is letting us batch edit the subscriptions to the serials to say, actually, people in Family Circle, these subscriptions are now going to a new shelving location. They're going to be, I'm always trying to make my examples make sense. They're going to be in periodicals now at the East Branch. Or if you wanted to switch all of these to now making items or no longer making items. So a little bit easier way to change several subscriptions at a go. I'm going to not change them because I'll just break stuff. While I'm doing this, the catalogers are fomenting revolution in the chat. That's okay. We can be ruled by catalogers. It'll be very organized.
I think you've made Heather's year with these upgrades.
So while we're giving love to catalogers, I'm going to go to cataloging and show a change to Z3950. So a little bit of a change to how the Z3950 search appears. Oh, so let's see. Let's use this example, and then as soon as I hit go, I think, well, that was a bad example. That's going to find too many books. So everybody, take a moment, ponder your favorite Harry Potter book as Koha finds all the Harry Potter books from the Library of Congress. So instead of several columns over here, we now have one nice little action button that will give us, scoot that a little bigger, mark preview, card preview, or import. Also, we're getting some more noticeable highlighting on that, the one we've clicked. So it used to highlight it in just a darker gray. Now it's giving it a real obvious orange color. If I go mark preview, get that same mark preview I had before, but just a nicer looking interface, kind of simplifying those columns a little bit. And again, making it even more obvious which one you have just looked at, so you don't get lost in your list of stuff. From there, I'm going to move to notices. So tools, notices and slips. So this is an exciting development, promising more things in the future. We now have, for a few specific notices, the ability to preview what those notices will look like. So far, this only works for check-in, check-out, and hold slip. But it lets us give it an item, a patron, and see what that notice will actually look like when it sends to the patron. So I'm going to do a checkout notice. So to see that preview, I'm going to find the notice I want and hit edit. And you'll see that there's now a new little box here, data for preview. So it's asking me for a barcode and a borrower number to know which item and which borrower to make this preview for. I've got a handy dandy example here. You'll see those are separated by a pipe. It's not probably easy to see on the screen share. So put those in barcode, pipe, borrower number, and then I need to pick which format I want to do a preview for. So if I want to see a preview of the email notice, come down here and I've got a preview button. And it shows me this is what that message will look like when it actually sends with this title information for this borrower. I like that it gives me a little note here that says, we didn't really check this out. We made a preview notice in case we're really confused about where we are in Koha. This is also, this notice template, you'll notice is also giving this original and converted. This is if you are wanting to convert your notices over to the template toolkit language rather than the existing Hungry Alligators setup. So that's a little bit off topic, something for another day. So again, so far those notices only exist on check-in, check-out, and hold slip. But watch for them to come to more notices. I'm excited about notice previews. That's been a sticking point for support, and so it's nice to be able to see what that will actually come out as. Now I think Heather's just playing it up, which I appreciate. Feigned enthusiasm is A-okay. All right, I'm going to go to reports now, and I am super excited about the changes to reports. We've got some very nice things there. Starting with, reports got shiny. We've got a nice box here that lets you jump straight to searching your saved reports by keyword. So let's say patrons. So that's a nice little bit of shortcut there. You don't have to click into saved reports and then do your search. Similarly, we've got some more obvious buttons for create from a guided report, create from SQL. And then once we are in any of these, I'm just going to click acquisition statistics wizard. The buttons over on the side have also gotten retooled a little bit. That list has been expanded and just made to look prettier. Now I'm going to jump to the lost items report. Let's, yeah, sure. Show me all my lost items. Heather says she wants 1805 as soon as possible. I'm going to take this opportunity to mention we do early adopters for upgrades. If you are interested in getting on that early adopter list, we don't try to do like tons of folks. If everybody was an early adopter, that would be kind of a catch-22. But yeah, let us know if that is a thing you're interested in. All right, so in my lost item list, we now have some nice new buttons to download this list. This didn't used to be an exportable thing. But yeah, if I want to just download this as a CSV file, I can do that now. This list used to, or this report used to just show on the screen. Now I can take it and save it for whatever I want. Okay, this next change is a little highfalutin, a little fancy, but let me find report number 54. I have no idea what this report is actually meant to do. So we are now able, in a report when we are calling runtime parameters, where it's asking us for stuff, we're able to reuse those parameters in the report. So if it's something that you need to use multiple times, you don't need to supply it multiple times anymore. This is one of those bugs that I read that and I thought, I know I have run into this issue before, but I couldn't think of specific examples. I'm not sure what Vicky wants someone to make stat. Maybe the t-shirt, the cataloger t-shirts. So I'm gonna show this report. So this report asks for branch code twice because it's doing a union, so it needs that branch code in this query and then also in this query. So with this new feature, if I run the report, previously that would have asked me for a branch code twice and I'd have to enter it twice, make sure I do the same thing both times. Now it's smart enough to know that I don't want two different branch codes, I just want the same one twice. So it asks me for it once and uses it twice. If you've got any existing reports that were asking for the same value 2 times, this will automatically just start asking for it once instead. It works by matching up. I'm going to actually show that here. Anytime you've got one of these runtime parameters where all of this text is the same, it's just going to assume that that's one thing and just use it twice. Now for my next fancy reports thing, let me find something that spits out item numbers. So in 1805, anytime you run a report that gives you a column of item numbers, it's going to give you a handy dandy button to automatically send this whole list over to batch modification, which is a huge deal. Because chances are, if you're writing a report that returns item numbers, you're wanting to batch modify those. So you no longer have to copy and paste those numbers. You can just click the magic button. And here we are. We're in item batch modification, ready to change all of those. So yeah, that was absolutely one that I was excited about to just, that just saves lots of clicks. How exciting. But the report's excitement isn't over yet. Another nice just little usability thing. If I am editing a report, we'll put the barcode on there too. When I click update, it no longer shunts me off onto a little page that says your report was saved. It now tells me right here, my report was saved, and I'm still here to either keep editing it or go ahead and run it from here. Just loops me right back around here, keeps me on an actually helpful page rather than taking me to sort of a holding spot I have to work from. On my list of saved reports, which is a little short right now because it's limiting itself. Let me fix that. I now have a column visibility button. If you want to pare this down to make it a little easier to look at, help you find a specific thing. Boy, I don't think turning off report name is a good idea. We can turn off any of these we don't want to see right now. So a little customizability there. That also added export buttons. I'm not quite sure why you would need to export your list of saved reports, but every time I see something like that, I think it'll come up. There will be a reason. Someone had a reason or it wouldn't have gotten added. Okay, and that brings me to the end of my list of stuff. So obviously this is just a surface scratch of all the stuff in 1805, and we're going to go into a lot more detail in each of the individual modules. Got a little time here if other people have questions. Will Elasticsearch come in 1805? No, I think Elasticsearch is on track for 1811. We did at KohaCon saw a presentation from a French library that is using Elasticsearch right now. Speaking of early adopters, they jumped on it early, and it's not perfect yet. Like it was good to see somebody using it and kind of hear about what's working and what's not for them. I think that'll be really valuable for the developers in getting that up and running for everybody. But yeah, I believe it is on track for 1811. Well, if nobody else has any questions now, that's it for our What's New webinar. Do keep an eye on I lost my link, the upgrade notes site over on our page. Questions and answers will go up there from this webinar and all of the other ones. Do join us for future webinars or watch there for recordings of them. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoys 1805. It's got a lot of nice stuff that we're pretty excited about. All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye.